Selection screens serve as an interface between the program and the user and allow limitation of the amount of data to be read from the database. You can use the declarative statements parameters and select options to generate a standard selection screen, that is, screen 1000, with input-ready fields. Logical databases supply a selection screen whose appearance is dependent on the specified node name, for example, node's name. Selection screen versions offer a subset of the standard selection screen. In addition to the standard selection screen, you can also use selection screen begin of screen to generate an additional selection screen and use call selection screen to call them. You can create variants to save selection screen values that you use frequently. You can use the variants at any time. If a report with a selection screen runs in the background, a variant is always required.
The parameter statement is a declarative language element. As in the case of the data statement, you can declare the parameters with the type or like additions. The system generates input-ready fields on the selection screen. You can maintain selection texts by choosing Go To, Text Elements, Selection Texts. The names of the parameters fields can have a maximum of 8 characters. With the default value addition, you can set a default value for a parameter statement. If you assign a memory ID PID, the system retrieves the current value from the SAP memory and displays it on the screen automatically. The SAP memory is a user-specific memory area in which simple data values, for example the key for an airline, are stored for set/get parameters. These data values are stored for the duration of a user session. Set/get parameters are identified by a name which can be maximum 20 characters long. A set/get parameter can be assigned to a data element. Fields based on this data element can then use the SAP memory mechanism. You can find out the name of a required set/get parameter by choosing Help or F1, Technical Information, in an output field to call technical information. In the parameter ID field, you find the name of the set/get parameter. If you declare mandatory fields with the obligatory addition, users cannot leave the selection screen without entering values in these fields. Hint: the name GRP of a radio button group can have a maximum of 4 characters.
Select Options is a declarative language element with the same naming restriction of 8 characters as parameters. Select Options allows the use of a value range and complex selections instead of a single input field. The Select Options keyword generates an internal table, SELTAB, with a standard structure and a header line. You can maintain the selection text in the same way as with parameters by choosing Go To, Text Elements, Selection Texts. Use the addition for to specify the type of the field. Use the name of a variable that you have already declared in a data or node statement. Each line of the selection table, SELTAB, formulates a condition using one of the relational operators.
To calculate the selection set S, the system forms the union of all includes, that is, sign is equal to I, and the union of all excludes, that is, sign is equal to E. The set of exclusions is then subtracted from the set of inclusions. If the select options object contains no values, the system returns all rows from the database.
If a user enters data in a Select Options object, the system automatically fills the internal table. To change the default values for the sign and option table fields, choose Edit, Selection Options. The system offers suitable options for this selection. The green traffic signal icon in the sign column indicates I for inclusive, and a red light indicates E for exclusive. To delete a table entry, choose Edit, Delete Selection Row. Every selection criterion can be used to make multiple selections unless it is defined otherwise. If multiple selections are present, the color of the arrow changes from gray to green.
The Select Options statement additions are as follows.
You can override the default value of a parameters field or a Select Options object in the initialization event. For this reason, these events are appropriate for a dynamic pre-assignment of the input fields that are displayed on a selection screen. At selection screen, output is processed before the selection screen is displayed, and at selection screen is processed after the selection screen is displayed. You can display the selection screen multiple times, for example, by pressing Enter, and therefore the system can also process those event blocks multiple times. The system processes the initialization event once in each executable program. You can deliver default values for the selection screen fields of a report or a logical database during this initialization event. You can use the F1 help or technical help to determine the names of the selection fields if a logical database is connected with the program.
The Select Options SEL_OPT for data_object statement always generates an internal table with a header line. The statement creates the following data objects. Table body named SEL_OPT. Work area, that is the header line, named SEL_OPT. Fill the SEL_OPT work area with correct values and use the append SEL_OPT command to add it to the table body as a separate line. You can also provide values for the selection screen at the Add Selection Screen output event. This event occurs before the selection screen is displayed. However, this event may be processed multiple times, for example, if the user chooses Enter on the selection screen. In this case, the values provided at the Add Selection Screen output event override the user input. You can use the selection screen statement to design the structure of the selection screen. You can use the begin off block addition to group logically related screen elements and with frame to frame them. You can nest frames up to 5 levels. Assign a heading to the block to facilitate accessibility. You can write the title as either text, XXX, or as a field name of up to 8 characters. To write a text as a field name, you set the text at runtime in the initialization event. Before you design a selection screen, familiarize yourself with the guidelines for screen design shown in Transaction BIBS.
You can display multiple parameters and comments in the same output line by enclosing them between selection screen begin of line and selection screen end of line. The comment addition enables you to include text in the line. Comment texts must always have a format, that is, position and output length. You can define the position using integer literals or variables. Position_low and position_high are the positions of the upper and lower limits of the field Select Options on the selection screen. The output length is always defined as an integer literal.
You can work with several selection screens in one program. The standard selection screen always has the number 1000. You can define other selection screens using selection screen begin off screen NNNN and selection screen end of screen NNNN. You use select options and parameters to define the required selections between the begin off and end off statements. Use call selection screen NNNN to call this selection screen. A selection screen should have a screen number higher than 1000. If the user performs any action on the call selection screen, the add selection screen event is processed. In this event, the SYD-YNNR system field contains the number of the called selection screen. Then, the program continues with the statement that follows the call. The SY sub RC system field contains 0 if the user chooses execute or presses F8. If the user chooses cancel or exit, SY sub RC contains the value 4. Tab strips allow enhanced logical grouping of the fields and provide you with a clearer structuring of large selection screens. You can display tab strips on selection screens. For a selection screen with tab strips, you define the following components. Subscreen area on the selection screen for the tab strip. Individual tab titles. Selection screens as subscreens for individual tab titles.
You can define selection screens as subscreens. You can include the selection screens on any other screen, especially as tab pages. The system processes the add selection screen output and add selection screen RBAP events for each subscreen and also for the surrounding selection screen. Work with the SYD-YNNR system variable to determine the selection screen or subscreen that is currently being processed.
The following are the optional additions. Nesting level M. Nesting level reduces the size of the subscreen. If you use the subscreen in a tab strip control on the selection screen and the tab strip already has a frame, you can reduce the size of the subscreen to prevent the scroll bars from appearing. If the tab strip does not have a frame, use nesting level 0. For each frame around the tab strip control, increase nesting level by 1. No intervals. No intervals option hides the high fields for all selection criteria defined with select options on this screen.
If you specify the default addition, you need to specify the screen addition. The program addition is optional and you only need to specify it if the screen is from another program. You can delay the specification of the connection between tab titles and selection screens until runtime. You can also change an existing assignment at runtime. To do this, fill the block name structure. It is automatically created for every tab strip block. The structure has the same name as the tab strip block and it contains the program, DINPRO and active tab fields. For the add selection screen event, the SYUCOM system variable contains the user command declared for the tab page that is currently selected, UCOM. The block name structure contains information about the selection screen that is currently displayed. At selection screen is processed 2 times, first for the selection screen on the currently selected tab page and then for the selection screen 1000. For the add selection screen output event, the block name structure contains information about the next active tab page and the selection screen related to this page. Add selection screen output is processed twice, first for the selection screen 1000 and then for the selection screen on the next visible tab page. You evaluate the user's input on the selection screen in the Add Selection Screen event. If an error or warning message is displayed during this event, the selection screen is redisplayed and the system makes all selection screen fields ready for input. You can use the Add Selection Screen on block event to check the entry combinations of a logical group. Fields in this block become ready for input when an error message is issued. The Add Selection Screen on end of SELTAB event is for the process after input or PAI processing of the selection screen for multiple selections. You can perform input checks for the selection criteria of a logical database that you use and for your own program-specific selections.
You can program your own F1 help, that is field help, and F4 help, that is input help for the Add Selection Screen on help request and Add Selection Screen on value request events. F1 help can refer to individual parameters or a selection table or SELTAB. If you specify the name of a select options table, the help is available for both SELTAB low and SELTAB high. You must specify the lower interval field or the upper interval field as a reference for F4 help for a selection option. When you position the cursor and use the F1 or F4 key, the system triggers the appropriate event. The addition of on value request displays the push button for F4 help for the corresponding field. Hint: F1 and F4 help are stored in the ARBAP dictionary. The advantage for programmers is that they do not need to retrieve data for F4 help and the transfer of the selected value to the input field. For the user, F1 and F4 help of this type provide a uniform cross-program design.
A user can create any number of selection screen variants for a program. The system assigns each variant uniquely to the program and it is not shared with other programs. Creating variants is useful when you frequently start a program with the same selection subset or run the program in the background. If you choose Start Using Variant in the program attributes, then you need to specify a variant when executing the program. If the program uses several selection screens, you can choose to create a variant for a single or all the selection screens.
Assign a name and a description to each variant. By default, variants are available for both dialog and background processing. You can also define a variant exclusively for use with backend processing. You can prevent other users from making changes to your variant. If you select Only Display in Catalog, this variant is displayed only in the catalog, but not in the General Value Help or F4. The variant catalog is part of the ARBAP workbench and it is only accessible to ARBAP developers. It is not available to the normal users of a program. To call the variants catalog, that is an overview of all existing variants, starting from ARBAP editor, choose Go to, Variants, and then Variants, Catalog. The type of a selection is defined in its declaration. For example, type S for Select Options, type P for Parameters. If you choose Selections Protected, the fields are not ready for input. You use the Hide attribute to hide selections that are not required, making the selection screen clearer.